It's been 6 years and now you're here. With him. How is he doing? Is he going to be okay?
We're doing everything we can. He's stable for now.
The night over Boston was torn apart by a nor'aster. Wind scraped against the high-rise windows like fingernails dragged across glass. Rain hammered the streets like needles. 2:14 a.m. St. Vincent Hospital screamed alive. Code Blue. Pediatric cardiology. Hallway lights flickered in frantic pulses. Rushed footsteps echoed. The monitor beeped in broken, uneven rhythm. A small heart was losing its beat. At the end of the 7th-floor corridor, Claire Morgan knelt beside a hospital bed. Her hands were shaking so badly she had to clutch her own shoulders just to steady herself. On the bed lay Liam, about 5 years old. So thin the blanket seemed to swallow him whole. His skin was pale, lips drained of color. Electrodes clung to his chest, the assist machine fighting to pull his heartbeat back from chaos. Claire leaned close, her voice low and steady. Liam, look at Mommy. Only Mommy, breathe in. 1, 2, 3. Breathe out. 1, 2, 3. The boy's breaths fluttered like wind caught in a half-closed door. Monitor beep, beep, beep. Each one slower than the last. Claire tightened her hold on his small hand. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. Do you hear me? The overhead lights flickered. Everything dropped into momentary darkness. A nurse shouted. The backup generator isn't holding. Voltage is dropping. Claire spun around, her voice sharp and precise as a blade. If the power falls, the cardiac assist will fail. Call hospital energy control now. On a lower floor, an elevator stood frozen in place. Inside, Adrian Holt, CEO of Helios Grid, the largest clean energy corporation on the East Coast, was gripping the cold metal railing. His suit was soaked through, but still immaculate. A streak of dried blood lined his forehead from where he'd slipped on the rain-slick pavement. Not serious, but enough to bring him here at this exact moment and trap him in the dark. He pressed the emergency button. Can anyone hear me? A voice crackled through static. Elevators stalled due to the storm, sir. We're rebooting now. Please remain calm. Adrian closed his eyes. Darkness didn't scare him. He had lived with another kind of darkness for 6 years. He breathed slowly, and then he heard it through the vent of the elevator shaft. A voice rising through the floors. A voice he had once tried to bury. Liam, listen to Mommy. You don't have to fight your heart. We'll guide it back. Mommy's here. Claire. Adrian's jaw locked. His own heartbeat stumbled. And the name she'd just spoken. Liam. He didn't dare form the thought. Didn't dare speak it. The elevator lights flickered, then glowed faintly. Adrian pulled out his phone. 1 bar of service. He sent an internal command to Helios. Substation E14. Prioritize power to St. Vincent. Stabilize supply to pediatric cardiology. Override authorization. Responsibility. A halt. The message crawled. Then marked delivered. He placed a hand over his chest, not from pain, but because he knew he understood exactly what was happening. The elevator doors were forced open manually. Staff told him to stay still. He didn't. He ran. Footsteps crashing through the white corridor like someone sprinting straight into their past. He reached the door just as Claire turned. Their eyes met, stunned. Time slamming backward. 6 years. Then Claire raised an invisible wall. Adrian. Her voice was flat, smooth, without tremor. He looked toward the bed. Liam looked back. Gray-blue eyes, the same eyes Adrian saw in the mirror every morning. No test needed. No explanation spoken. He knew his son. Claire stepped forward, blocking his path. Don't say a word. Not here. Not now. Adrian nodded. No arguments, no defense. He looked at Liam's fragile breathing and simply stood there truly still. For the first time in years, a nurse called out, "Power's stabilizing. Heart rhythm is recovering." The monitor's beep steadied, soft and even. A doctor signaled, "Mother stays. We'll reduce intervention in 3 minutes." He glanced at Adrian, not yet asking, "Who are you?" to this child, but already understanding something. Claire placed her hand gently on her son's chest, her voice warm and precise. You don't have to be stronger than anyone. You just have to endure the same way Mommy endures to keep you. Adrian spoke quietly, almost to himself. I won't run anymore. Claire heard him. Her eyes closed, her shoulders lowered a fraction. Then she opened them again, her reply firm but calm.
Good.
Then learn how to stay because my child's life can't survive being abandoned one more time. Outside the window, the rain softened. But inside that small room, another storm had just begun to wake the hallway. After intervention, Claire stood with her back against the wall, breathing slowly. Adrian stood across from her, keeping his distance. He was acutely aware of the nurse's eyes, the security guard's glance, aware of who he was on the front page of business magazines. But none of that mattered compared to the little boy in that room. Adrian spoke first, steady, like he was holding every piece of himself in place just to stay present. I prioritized power to pediatric cardiology. It'll stay stable. Claire nodded slightly. Thank you. A beat for him. Adrian swallowed the questions rising in his throat. Why didn't you tell me? Why 6 years of silence?
But he didn't ask.
Not now. Right now, there was only one question that mattered. Do you need anything else? Not tonight, Claire answered. But tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., a small conference room on the second floor. She looked directly at him, her cadence measured and clear. No suit, no assistant, no PR, just you and a pen. For what?
To start the right way.
Adrian nodded. I'll be there. Inside the room, Liam shifted. Claire hurried back in. Adrian remained outside, leaning against the wall, eyes closed. 6 years ago, he hadn't shown up to a meeting. The phone had rung, the rain had fallen, and he had remained silent, and silence became the choice. Tonight, he would not allow himself to repeat it. The room was quiet. Claire sat beside her son, her hand resting lightly on the blanket. Liam's breathing was steadying. The doctor added, Tonight, close observation. Tomorrow morning, full panel. If numbers hold, we'll tape resistance. Claire thanked him and took notes. Quick, neat, practical. The door eased open. Adrian leaned in, voice soft. Can I stand here for a while? Claire looked up. She weighed not right and wrong, but order. She nodded. Stand over there. 2 steps back. Don't wake him. Adrian followed every word exactly. He looked at the boy's face, a stray lock of hair, the faint smudge of pencil still under a fingernail, evidence of an afternoon drawing rockets. Small details, but they anchored him to something real. A child who loved space. Not a headline, not a scandal. A nurse brought in a folding chair. Adrian gently slid it toward Claire. She shook her head. You sit. He blinked, surprised. You need to learn how to stay, Claire said plain and direct.
Sit down.
That's the first step. Adrian sat.
He didn't speak.
He simply stayed. Time moved slowly. The rain outside shifted from a howl to a soft hum. The monitor held a steady rhythm. Claire leaned back slightly, though her eyes never left her son. Adrian checked the time, 3:28 a.m., then placed his phone back in his pocket and turned off the vibration. He chose a new silence, the silence of being present. After a while, Liam stirred again, his eyes fluttering open.
Mom.
Claire bent closer. I'm here. Liam blinked, glanced toward Adrian. No fear, just surprise. You're still here? Adrian answered slowly, gently. Yes, I'm here. Liam nodded just barely and drifted back to sleep. Claire looked at Adrian. The ice in her eyes had thinned, but distance still remained. She spoke quietly. Tomorrow, 9 a.m., second floor. Come alone. Adrian replied, I'll come and listen, Claire added. Not talk. I understand. She adjusted the blanket, sat down, closed her eyes for one breath, then opened them again. A new day waited ahead. There would be questions, documents, boundaries. But tonight, there was only Liam's heartbeat and the act of staying. Outside, the rain had thinned. Boston seemed to exhale after a nightmare. Inside, 2 adults kept watch over a sleeping child. No words needed, no touch needed, just presence. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., small meeting room on the second floor. Adrian would walk in with no suit, no entourage, just a pen and one final chance. But when the door opened, Claire would not be standing there alone. Nike or Storm. Boston carried a strange quiet, a misted sky, wet pavement reflecting hurried footsteps. St. Vincent Hospital moved a fraction slower. The night shift survivors trading places, the smell of fresh coffee mingling with antiseptic. The small meeting room on the second floor had no grand conference table, no tall glass windows. It was a family consultation room. One wooden table, for chairs, and a potted plant wilting at the leaves. No one entered here to win. People came here to try. Adrian stood outside the door at exactly 9, just as Claire asked. No suit, no assistant, nothing of the CEO, only a dark sweater, simple and neat, and a pen in his hand. His posture was not proud and not bowed, simply steady, like someone ready to take responsibility. Claire entered a few seconds later, white coat creased at the sleeves, eyes shadowed from the sleepless night, yet her stance still firm as a pillar. In her hands was a pale blue folder, Liam's medical file. She didn't sit immediately. She placed the file on the table, kept her hand resting on it for a moment as if aligning her breath, then said, Liam is doing better. His rhythm has stabilized. We'll keep him under observation for a few more days. Adrian nodded. His voice was low, even. I'm grateful you were with him. Thank you for saving him. Claire paused, and for a brief second, her eyes softened. Then she returned to steady ground. That's my job, and I'm his mother. A simple sentence, yet it carved a line between them as sharp as glass. Adrian pulled out a chair, but didn't sit yet. Claire, why didn't you tell me? The question wasn't urgent. Wasn't accusatory, just real. So real it couldn't be avoided. Claire looked at him, not dodging, not defending. I did tell you, just not to you. Adrienne's brow tightened slightly, but he didn't interrupt. Claire opened the folder, but she didn't look at the papers. She looked at him directly. No edge, no armor, just truth. The day I found out I was pregnant, I went to see you, but I didn't see you. I saw your mother. No names needed, no emphasis required. Margaret Holt was a name that changed the air in the room. Claire continued, her voice slow, steady, every word traveling through somewhere once raw. She told me I would ruin your life, that if you knew about the baby, you'd stay out of responsibility, not love, and she would not allow that. Adrian closed his eyes for 1 second. He could see his mother clearly, standing at the window, hand on his shoulder, voice cold enough to be elegant. Do not break over, girl. Men are born to climb, Claire said. She gave me 2 choices. Leave Boston or watch you lose everything because of me. Adrian opened his eyes. His throat tightened. He wanted to say he would never have believed that. Wanted to say he would have chosen her. Wanted to say he would have stayed, but 6 years ago he hadn't been there. Claire continued. No accusation, just memory. I waited. I waited for you to call. I waited for you to come. I just needed you to say 1 sentence. I'm here. But I stood alone in the rain. And I understood. The words were not a knife. They were truth, and truth can cut deeper. Adrian drew in a long breath and sat down. He didn't try to explain. He didn't say he didn't know because knowing no longer mattered. He simply said, I was wrong completely. I didn't show up. I didn't choose you, Claire. I'm sorry. Claire gave a small smile, one without light. I don't need an apology. I need you to understand. For 6 years, I have been raising him alone. The emergency nights, the moments he couldn't breathe, the times the monitor failed, the times he asked where his father was. Her voice tightened, but didn't break. I had to tell him his father didn't know he existed, not that his father didn't love him. She lowered her gaze to the table. I had to say that every single time. A tear fell onto the medical file. Adrian didn't say you're so strong like some empty praise. He just breathed in, shoulders trembling slightly, and said, I want to be here, not to win you back, not to erase the past, but to become Liam's father if you'll allow it. Claire looked at him for a long time, not to see whether he was telling the truth, but to see whether he could hold the weight of that truth. Then she opened the file, flipped a few pages, and slid it toward him. It wasn't legal paperwork. It was heart rate logs, medication charts, diet plans, target numbers, stress test graphs. This is what being a father means. If you want to step in the right way. Adrian received the pages with both hands, as if they were something fragile. Claire placed 3 additional sheets on the table, her voice firm enough to cut clean. And there are 3 conditions. Adrian nodded. I'm listening. 1. Your mother does not get to touch his life. No control, no presence, no interference. 2. You don't promise anything you can't keep. No pretty words, only actions. 3. You do not leave again. Not one more time, no matter how hard it gets. Adrian did not need more than 3 seconds. I agree. Claire observed him, not to test his sincerity, but to see whether he spoke with steadiness. Regret can burn hot, but a grown man is measured by consistency, and he was consistent. She nodded once, small, but enough for the gravity in the room to shift. Then Claire said, rising, "This afternoon you come with me to pick him up. Not reconciliation, not repair, not forgiveness, but a first step." Beacon Hill Schoolyard. Afternoon light laid a warm gold across the maple trellis. Children spilled out like a flock of birds. Claire walked forward. Adrian walked beside her, not too close, not too far, like someone learning a new rhythm of breathing. The classroom door opened. Liam ran out, hugging Claire first. Then he looked at Adrian. He didn't run to him. He didn't step back. He simply observed carefully. Mom said, "You're a friend. A friend of mine or of Mom?" The question wasn't innocence. It was a test of sincerity. Adrian knelt to eye level. "If you'd like, I'd like to be your friend first. Would that be okay?" Liam thought about it clearly. Seriously, exactly like Adrian would. A friend has to know how to play. Adrian smiled, the same smile once belonging to a distant summer. "I know you like drawing rockets." Liam blinked. "Mom told you?" "No, I saw it in your school portfolio. You draw Mars better than any grown-up I know." Liam paused, then nodded just a little, but it was a door opening. "I have a new rocket drawing at home." Adrian nodded gently. "I'd really like to see it." Claire placed her hand on Liam's shoulder. "Let's go home. All 3 of us." That afternoon, the late sunlight stretched a thin gold across Beacon Hill's courtyard. Rain still clung to the fallen maple leaves, reflecting a softness that made the world look strangely kind, as if the storm from last night had never happened. Claire stood beneath the trees, one hand on her bag strap, the other resting lightly on Liam's shoulder, not protectively in panic, but protectively in habit. Adrian walked beside them, keeping his steps even, not pushing in, not claiming space, not forcing closeness. He was learning to be present without taking over. And to Claire, that mattered more than any apology ever could. That first evening, one small kitchen, 3 chairs, and a pot of carrot soup. Claire's apartment sat on the 3rd floor of an old building with a balcony overlooking the Charles River. Not fancy, not large, but warm. It smelled of cinnamon, clean laundry, and a life built through real effort. Liam sat on the living room rug, spreading out drawing paper. Claire stirred carrot soup on the stove. Adrian stood at the counter, peeling apples or trying to. The knife sawed too hard. One slice was huge. The next slice, so thin light shone through it. Liam watched. He didn't tease. He simply squinted, evaluating. "You don't know how to peel apples." Adrian set the knife down, slightly embarrassed, but not defensive. "I know how to sign a $1 billion contract," he answered calmly. "But apple peeling, I'm still learning." Liam considered this seriously, then nodded. "Mom cuts them better." Claire laughed softly. "Not sharp, not pointed." "That's true, but he's trying, and trying counts." Adrian looked at Claire. That small acknowledgement opened a window inside him. Dinner passed quietly. No grand declarations, no tears. Just the sound of spoon against bowl. Liam talking about rocket sketches, and 2 adults for the first time in 6 years listening together. At the end of the meal, Liam asked, "Are you coming again tomorrow?" That question wasn't innocent. It was a measuring stick of trust. Adrian didn't promise something shining. He didn't say, of course. He looked straight into the boy's eyes, voice steady and slow. I'll be here tomorrow, the day after, and the days after that. Claire watched him. She didn't smile, but something in her eyes softened, just slightly. Trust, not forgiveness, but trust is always the first step toward forgiveness. A week passed, and the small things turned out to matter the most. During that week, Adrian picked Liam up from school every afternoon. He learned how to tie Liam's shoelaces, learned how to open a milk carton without it spraying everywhere, learned how to wait for Liam to think before answering, learned that fatherhood wasn't made of grand gestures. It was made of small things repeated every day. Claire kept her distance. No hugging, no touching, no sudden return, but she no longer pushed him away either. The air inside the small apartment changed. It no longer felt like the battleground of a heart abandoned. It felt like the territory of a family forming slowly, carefully, quietly. One morning, as Adrian prepared to drop Liam off, the car stopped at the intersection on Beacon Street. Light streamed through the window, brushing across Liam's hair, making him look like he sat inside an old, warm painting. But at the school gate, there were long lenses pointed toward them. Not many, just a few, but enough to know something had begun. Adrian slowed the car. Claire looked out the window, and her blood went cold. Boston newspapers didn't care about romance, but a famous CEO appearing every day with a child who looked unmistakably like him. That was a story. They would run. Claire touched Liam's shoulder, voice steady and calm. Liam, you'll stay home today. I'll call the school for you. Liam frowned. But I have art class. Claire leaned down, touching her forehead gently to his. I promise I'll draw with you all morning. Liam considered, then nodded. He trusted her fully. Adrian drove a longer route home so Liam wouldn't see the chaos behind them. In the car, Claire typed message after message. School, doctors, shift coordinators. She moved quickly, precisely, but her hand trembled slightly around the phone. Adrian placed his hand over hers. No pressure, just presence. Claire didn't pull away. When they returned to the building, someone was waiting. The security guard hurried over. Mr. Halt. Someone has been waiting for you in the lobby since morning. No name needed, no description. Both of them knew. The glass doors opened. A woman stepped forward. A pale gray cashmere coat. Hair pulled back perfectly. Not a single strand out of place. A face beautiful in the way power can be beautiful. Not harsh, but impossible to ignore. Margaret Hull, Adrienne's mother. The one who ended it 6 years ago. The one Claire had avoided like a wound that never fully closed. Margaret looked at Claire, not hostile, not threatening, just silent, long enough to show something inside her had changed. Then she spoke, her voice not raised, not trembling, not commanding.
Claire.
Claire stood tall. Mrs. Holt. Margaret's gaze shifted to Liam, and the wall she had spent a lifetime constructing cracked very slightly, but unmistakably, because there are things the heart is not taught to harden against. Liam moved closer to Claire instinct. Adrian rested his hand on Liam's shoulder, a silent, unmistakable shield. Margaret did not step closer. She understood boundaries, or she had learned them. I didn't come to take anything, she said. I came to apologize. The lobby seemed to stop breathing. Claire did not blink. For what exactly? Margaret inhaled. Not deep, but heavy. For deciding on behalf of my son, for stopping him from loving you in his own way, for letting my life and my fears dictate the future of the two of you. Adrian stood still. Claire stood like river stone. Margaret turned to her son. And she did not look at a corporate heir or a legacy she built. She looked at a man with a life separate from hers. You have changed, and not because of me. Then she bowed her head to Claire, not deeply, but clearly. In Margaret Holtz's world, that was a vow. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking to stay outside and never force anyone to choose again. Claire studied her for a long, quiet moment. Then she asked one question, small enough that only someone speaking from the heart could hear it clearly. Can you promise you will never make him choose again? No matter what comes? Margaret answered without hesitation. I swear. Liam looked up at Adrian and whispered, Dad, who is that? Adrian knelt and for the first time said a word he had never been allowed to say. Liam, this is your grandmother. Liam blinked, then took one small step forward on his own. I can show you my rocket drawing. Margaret laughed, a sound Adrian hadn't heard in years. Claire exhaled for the first time that morning. Not forgiveness, but the door had opened. That night on the balcony, Boston below shimmered like an upside-down sky. Claire stood beside Adrian. They looked at the city, not at each other. Adrian spoke softly. Thank you. Claire shook her head. Don't thank me. Just keep your word. Adrian turned slightly, his voice no louder than a breath. I'm keeping it. Claire looked at him. Long, steady. Her eyes no longer storms, but still waves. We'll see how long you can keep it. Adrian smiled. Real, not performed. For a lifetime. Claire didn't smile back, but she didn't turn away. And sometimes that alone is enough. That evening, Boston rained again. Not the violent rain of the storm, but a gentle, thin rain, like the city was trying to rinse an old wound clean. Liam sat on the living room floor, spreading out papers, coloring Earth and Mars orbiting each other. Claire sliced carrots in the kitchen. Adrian peeled apples. And this time, the slices were even, rounded, only slightly uneven on one edge. Claire noticed. She didn't comment, but there was a warm light behind her eyes. Adrian didn't show it off, didn't wait for praise. He simply placed the plate on the table. Small, neat, enough. A family, simple, quiet, in the right place until Liam paused. He set the crayon down, his brow tightened. He lifted a hand to his chest. Mom. Hard to breathe. Claire turned instantly. The reflex of someone who has spent too many nights in emergency rooms. No tears. No panic. But every muscle in her face tightened. Liam, look at me. In through your nose, slow out through your mouth. Good. Keep going. But this time, his breathing didn't settle. Heart rate rising, skin paling, cold sweat along his hairline. Adrian didn't need to be told. He had been beside these two long enough to know every sign. Let's go, he said. His voice did not shake. It was steel forged in fire. The hospital now. Claire lifted Liam. Adrian grabbed the keys. There was no discussion. In that moment, they were a team. On the way to the hospital, rain streaked the windshield in long, trembling lines. Claire sat in the back seat, holding Liam close against her chest, her voice soft as silk, but strong as an anchor in a storm. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. You're not alone. Liam's breaths came fast, his lips palled, his eyes half-opened, unfocused. Adrian glanced into the rear-view mirror. Liam's eyes met his. Not pleading, not panicked, but trusting. Trust that number 5-year-old should already know how to use. Adrian felt something in his chest tighten harder than any market crash had ever hit him. He pressed the accelerator. He didn't care about red lights. Didn't care about rules. There are moments in life where there is only one right choice. At the emergency room, Boston General, white bright hallway, machines, diagnostics, clipped commands. Claire handed Liam to the emergency team, but her hand stayed on his, as if that touch were the last thread keeping him anchored to the world. The attending physician, Dr. Langdon, appeared almost immediately. He had followed Liam's case since the first year. He knew everything. His heartbeat is contracting irregularly, he said quickly, voice focused. Well, give vasodilators and rhythm support. If it doesn't stabilize, we prepare for another surgery. The word surgery fell, heavy as lead. Claire froze for a breath. 6 years, and it had never once gotten easier. Adrian placed his hand on her shoulder. Look at me, he said. Quiet, not urgent, just present. We're here together. You're not alone anymore. Claire looked at him for a long time, and her heart broke open, not in noise, but in a silence, so deep it hurt. Not because she was weak, but because for the first time she didn't have to fight alone. No one spoke in the waiting hallway. Claire held her arms around herself. breath slow and measured. Each inhale a cut, each exhale a stitch barely holding together. Adrian stood beside her. No touching, no hollow comfort, just presence, the kind of presence that holds up a roof. When Dr. Langdon came out, they both stepped forward together. His rhythm has stabilized, he said. We avoided surgery, but he looked at both of them for a long moment. Liam's heart needs stability, not just from treatment, from his environment, from his emotions, from a family. No additional explanation was needed. Claire turned to Adrian, and this time there was no wall between them in the recovery room. Liam slept, breathing steady, color returning, one arm taped within 4, but his chest rising and falling with clear rhythm. Claire stood beside him. Adrian stood beside her. They did not look at each other. They did not speak. They simply stood together for the first time, without distance. In the dim light, Adrian spoke softly. Not apology, not empty promise. I didn't choose right the first time or the second, but for Liam and for you, I am choosing again. And this time, I choose for life. Claire didn't answer right away. She placed her hand over her son's chest where his small heart beat steadily again. I don't need beautiful promises, she said. Her voice was soft now, no edge left. I need presence. Adrian nodded. He didn't say I swear. He didn't say I promise. He simply pulled up a chair, sat down beside the bed, and stayed. Claire watched that. And for the first time in a very long time, she smiled. Very small, but real. She pulled another chair, sat beside him. They did not hold hands. They did not lean on each other. They did not need to because the most important thing had already happened. They were finally standing on the same side. After a long while, Liam blinked. Mom, Dad. Both of them placed a hand over his at the same moment. No one had to move aside. No one had to surrender space. I'm here, Adrian said. I'm here, Claire echoed. Liam smiled, weak but whole. Then I'm okay. And in that moment, no declarations were needed, no ceremony required. The three of them became a family. Not because of blood, not because of a shared last name, not because of legal documents, but because each of them chose to stay. Sometimes life gives us a second chance. Not to correct the past, not to erase what we've lost, but to write the future with steadier hands, with a heart no longer afraid, with a love that does not come with question marks. If this were you, would you be brave enough to love again? Leave your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to rate this story from Leo to 10. We read every single comment. Thank you for staying with us until the very end. If this story meant something to you, let us know in the comments. We really do listen. Share this with someone who loves a good story. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next hopeful and soul stories journey.